NAACP, Reverend Sykes, and Baytech Label, Carl Nurse, and of course, Mike Lewis and the Weekly Challenger. It's really an honor to be here this evening, and I am thrilled to be here. To tell you who I am, I'm Kathleen Ford. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A lot of folks don't realize that I have Midwestern roots. My great-uncles fought with the Irish Regiment in the Civil War for the Union, and their names are on a plaque in Vicksburg for that particular battle. And I think that describes a little bit of my background coming from the Midwest and coming with my parents to Virginia. So growing up from second grade through college, where I attended the University of Virginia. And the area that I chose was nursing. I care about people. And that's really been a driving force for me throughout my adult life is I just care about people. And I worked as a pediatric intensive care unit nurse, and I was also the nurse coordinator for the Gulf State Teen Affiliate Center in Houston, Texas. And I am really excited about the things that I see going on in the medical field, and I'm excited about what's going on here in St. Pete and All Children's. And I'll circle back to that in just a little bit. But as a registered nurse, I had a first-hand opportunity to really see how important it is to have good food so that we have healthy babies, good education so we have successful school experiences, and of course, quality health care so that we can tend to those who have their needs. It's been interesting to see what influence we have seen in probably the past 20 years with the changes in health care and access to health care. Again, I'll circle back to that later. But it was that background in nursing that really established what I could see were some real issues that needed to be addressed, but I couldn't address those as a nurse. That's why I went to law school. And I attended law school in the evening at South Texas College of Law in Houston, Texas, while I worked full-time as a nurse. And the areas that I was interested in obviously fell into the realm of personal injury, medical malpractice, but then I found I really loved real estate. And I think that's really important when you're looking at the city of St. Petersburg and you're looking at all those matters that involve real estate. And that's my background, and that's our firm's background today. I moved to the city of St. Petersburg in 1987, and I was pregnant with my daughter there, Maggie Ford, and my husband Harvey, who's been through this a few times. And thank you all. Love you very much. The interesting thing is when we moved to St. Pete, I was 7 months pregnant with Maggie, and I noticed across the street, every Friday night, there would be stretch limos stopping at the house across the street. Somebody jumped out, and then they jump back in and take off. I said, Harv, I think they're dealing drugs across the street. That began my involvement with the North Shore Neighborhood Association. A lot of folks think, oh, Old Northeast is really cool and exciting, and it's a wonderful neighborhood, and it is. But it didn't start out that way. That's how I became involved. We came up with the very first neighborhood plan. And so it was with that experience that I began to work with city officials in the codes department, in the planning department, in traffic and engineering, and also, of course, in law enforcement. It was through that experience that we developed the first neighborhood plan addressing those issues. And then based on that, city staff asked me to help out with Bartlett Park because they were developing a neighborhood plan. So I worked with Charles Payne and Tom Tito, and we worked to get Bartlett Park's neighborhood plan. Well, then they said, Kathleen, come over here. Help us on the city's housing roundtable. And that's how I got to know Daryl Arians and folks at the Housing Authority. And we began to look at how it is that we can address the challenges that we face in St. Petersburg with affordable housing. And of course, that involves a lot of different issues, not only the affordable housing, but then we look at the issues involving whether or not you can have a marketable affordable housing. There were some changes in legislation at the federal level, and we had to disperse what we had in the way of concentrated affordable housing. That has been taking place over many, many years. And so it's been interesting for me to see the changes. And frankly, I think community policing really works. And I think we need to return to that community policing where the officers really know the families in the neighborhoods. That's really critical. And I think it's a travesty when we have officers shooting in cars. I think we have to get rid of that policy. I also think that we can be smarter about how we're using law enforcement. And I just would like to hear from my friends in Wildwood who say, Kathleen, there are cars, police cruisers screaming down the street with no siren, no lights. And the chase policy has resulted in some injuries to innocent people, and I think we need to revisit that. I was opposed to it before, and I'm opposed to it today.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Well, thank you and good evening. Thank you to the NAACP for hosting this, along with Weekly Challenger and Carl Nurse, to Hospice for opening this beautiful facility for us, and to all of you for coming out tonight on Thursday night for what is the first in, from what I understand, of our schedules, many candidate debates, which is great because it gives people an opportunity to learn more about who we are. Many of you already know me. I served on City Council and for 6 years served in the state legislature where I fought for common sense. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rick Kreisman. I grew up in West St. Petersburg, attended Bogus High School, the University of Florida, and then came home to attend Stetson College of Law, Stetson University College of Law. Been married to my wife Carrie for 20 years, and we have 2 children, a daughter Jordan and my son Samuel. My daughter Jordan just finished her first year of high school at St. Pete High in the IB program, which means that she is 3 years away from graduation and 3 years away from watching her father cry. My family was really the main reason that I decided not to run for re-election to the State House. It was an honor to serve as your voice in the Capitol, to pass some good legislation, and to fight against the bad legislation and to try and slow down Governor Rick Scott's agenda. But there were other reasons that it was important to come back here. And aside from wanting to be back with my family, what was happening in the legislature is not what happens here. And that's, in the legislature, it's all about partisanship. It's not about policy and ideas. And, you know, that's not how local government works. And that certainly isn't how it works here in St. Petersburg. When it comes to policy and ideas and moving forward and having a vision, that's what we need here in St. Petersburg, and it's about leadership. And let me talk a little bit about what we haven't seen and where we need to go as a community. Economic development is, and creating jobs is really the hallmark of this community and what we've been all about. And when we talk about economic development, we need to remember our local small businesses. It's the small businesses that are paying the community a good wage. It's the small businesses that create the character that makes this community special. We need to have strong public education. And we need to have sound infrastructure. But we also need to focus in on neighborhoods. We've forgotten about neighborhoods here in this community. Neighborhoods are what made St. Petersburg special. It's what made us strong. It's what we were known for. And we've gotten away from that. And when we talk about neighborhoods, we talk about crime, we talk about public safety. And we do need to get back to community policing. It's about relationships. It's about having that relationship with your police officer. It's about having a relationship with people in Washington and Tallahassee so we can bring resources back into this community. And it's about having relationships between city council and the mayor so that we can be moving and focused on moving this community forward. It's something that hasn't happened, and it's something that needs to change. Now, being mayor isn't about standing for the status quo and maintaining the status quo, and it isn't about simply pointing out what's wrong in this community. It's about finding solutions to problems. It's about bringing people together and unifying our community. It's about being proactive and innovative. Being a mayor is about listening, learning, and leading. And that's something that needs to happen in City Hall. And we need to have a smarter government. Now, smarter government doesn't mean a bigger government. It means having a government that reflects the diversity of the community. And it empowers the community. Now, I'm not running to be mayor because I want to shake up City Hall. I'm running to be mayor because I want to lead this city forward into the future. Because that's what it's all about, is the future. For your kids, for my kids, for all of our kids. To give them a chance to have a better community than they've got right now. And I look forward to that opportunity, and I look forward to talking about the issues with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. You could be anywhere else and you chose to be here to listen to us and we to listen to you, but thank you. Because I think there's a common thread between all of us, and I think if I surveyed everybody in this room, I think most of you love the city of St. Petersburg. You are passionate about this city. And I'm going to take my 5 minutes to tell you what I've been doing for the last 3.5 years. My wife is here. My wife of almost 28 years has joined me. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Bill Foster. I'm the mayor of St. Petersburg. My son we take to Gainesville on Saturday to join the Summer B rank of the Gator Nation. My daughter just graduated from the University of Florida, and she just, and Kathleen will like this, she just passed her state boards in nursing. And so she's excited about these things that we've done in this medical cluster by nurturing these relationships between all children's and Johns Hopkins and now Bayfront and HMA and USF Shands. There I go again. So there are real opportunities. But when I ran 4 years ago, there were all of these issues swirling around. The big issues that we talked about 4 years ago, homelessness and panhandling, big issues. Crime, public safety, economic development, jobs. And we were heading into this thing we called the recession, and it was a great recession. And together we walked through the valley, and you know what? We did pretty good. My vision, my leadership was to make sure that we could compassionately care for homeless and give them something better than a cardboard box on a sidewalk. And so, together through the partnerships with the county and the sheriff and the state attorney and the public defender, we opened one of the largest homeless shelters in the state called Vanilla Safe Harbor. And the panhandling, I encourage the city council to pass an ordinance, and you don't see the people with these signs anymore holding these signs that to help. And so we tackled that. We tackled that quickly through great partnerships. And then economic development, it was my vision to be prepared for the end of the recession. Let's make sure that we posture the city through environments to be ready for the end. And guess what? That plan worked. Because through a lot of hard work and some great employees, we concentrated on look, smell, and feel. We concentrated on public safety. We concentrated on homeless issues. We concentrated on creating quality spaces of art and culture to bring in that younger demographic, the exciting demographic of tech writers and banking, financing, and insurance and marine scientists. And so it was these environments that we were able to create. And so now you look around the city, it's the return of the crane. It's the Renaissance 2.0. We've got over a dozen building construction projects now because some really smart people with a lot of money ran all the numbers and they said, you know what, we want to invest in St. Petersburg because this is where the people are, this is where the vibe is, and this is where the people are going to come. That's what I've been working on for the past 3.5 years. And you know what? We are on track for $500 million in construction value this year alone. We haven't seen those numbers since well before I took office. So these are the things that we've been working on. We're going to continue to work on that. We're not perfect. We struck out a few times. We hit some singles and doubles, and yeah, we hit some grand slams too. But you know what? We focused on those environments so the private investment community would say this is where it's happening. And yes, indeed, we focused on things like art and culture, and we were able to get, close that last part of the deal with Dali Museum and Chihuly and Museum of Fine Arts and supporting American Stage and St. Pete Opera and Palladium and Freefall and all of these things. For 3 years straight, we were #1 in the country for communities that are 500,000 people in art and culture. Why is that important? Because that's important to people, those quality spaces. Because people can live off of a laptop and Wi-Fi. But you know what? They choose to live in St. Petersburg and they fall in love with St. Petersburg because of these environments, because of Grand Central, because of the Warehouse Arts District, because of this vibe we have along this incredible waterfront which is just blowing up with excitement. That's what I've been doing for the past 3.5 years. Now, what do you... Wow, thank you.
Stay right there. Stay right there. As a follow-up question, and in deference to our key host for this evening, which is the St. Petersburg branch of the Florida chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, I'd like to ask you a question which was proposed to the organization in terms of your individual contributions to various constituencies within the city of St. Petersburg, people of color, disadvantaged business, and underserved constituents. The same question will be posed to candidate Kreisman as well as candidate Ford.
I have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Got to talk fast. I mean, it's real easy. Hindsight's 20/20, and unless you're in the mayor's office making those decisions, it's real easy to criticize. But in the African American community, I think some of the things that we've done in revitalizing Discover the Deuces and negotiating a lease with St. Pete College to move their facility to build a 45,000 square foot facility next to Johnny Ruth Clark. I think opening up the Manhattan Casino is incredible in bringing Sylvia's into town. I think completing Jamestown and spending money on Dwight Jones for all of these needed repairs that didn't just occur on my watch, but they were there. I think these are things that were incredible to come up with a CRA, this community redevelopment area that stretches from Midtown all the way to Childs Park. And to have these tax increment financing districts in a partnership with Pinellas County so we can go after grants, so we can work on affordable housing, workforce housing. Now, as far as underserved in the community and those, this is all about economic development and jobs. And sitting down with members of FAST in the construction industry and the Urban League, we were able to craft an ordinance that will spur local hiring, that will incentivize the hiring of local talent, and those hard to hire, those that might have a criminal record. I think we're a city of second chances, so we're working on this ordinance. It's in front of council. We're tweaking it for apprenticeship applications, but these are real things that are happening now. And as far as economic development, I announced yesterday the formation of this partnership called the Greenhouse, and it's all about starting new businesses, growing businesses, and bringing in, retaining existing small businesses, then going after others that will pay a living wage job. And I think as we continue to work in the Dome industrial area, as we try to incentivize those coming into the dip, you're going to see these real changes.
What have you as an individual done to address people of color, disadvantaged business enterprises, and underserved constituents in the city of St. Petersburg?
Thank you. Well, first off, while I served on city council for the 6 years, I worked closely with Mayor Baker and supported Mayor Baker in all of his initiatives that we did as a community to work on the Midtown initiative and bring business and change to Midtown, whether it was Sweet Bay or the Manhattan Casino, and a number of the different projects that we worked on and we were able to get off the ground. During my time in the legislature, my job was partly to serve as the voice for the voiceless, to be the one speaking out for this community against what was the leadership up there was trying to do to all of us back home here. And it was an honor to work with Representative Roussan as we fought the good fight up there. But we also worked to try and expand Medicaid and to get Obamacare implemented. We worked on voting right issues to try and make sure that everyone had access to vote and had an opportunity to vote, to restore felon rights, and to work on those issues. And also, and something that was a personal passion of mine was public education, trying to make education more accessible, trying to improve our schools so all of our kids had an opportunity to have a future, to have hope, and to know that they had a chance to make something of themselves and to be productive and give back to their community. And I also fought against the frequent attempts of leadership to felonize everything and to make everything a crime thereby labeling everyone and giving our kids, sending our kids down a road that's difficult to turn back from, that scars them and leaves them with little opportunities to obtain jobs, to get to school, and to earn that degree and make something of themselves. So it was an honor to have the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for your reflections.
Candidate Ford, what have you done as an individual to address the issues of people of color, disadvantaged business enterprises, and their constituents in the city of St. Petersburg?
Thank you, Michelle. And I discussed a little bit of that earlier when I was talking about my efforts as a neighborhood activist to work with other neighborhoods, particularly Bartlett Park, in order to come up with a neighborhood plan. I was elected to City Council, and it was a privilege to serve, and I'm proudest of my nomination of Ernest Billiard to be our first African-American chair of City Council. And I'm proud of my nomination for Renee Flowers to be our first African-American chair of City Council. Unfortunately, after voting 19 times for her, it still did not happen, but eventually it did. And I'm proud of the work that she's been able to continue doing. And I think it is important that we have representation. And therefore, since the Bush v. Gore debacle here in Florida, I've been working with a group of attorneys here in Florida to look at the issues of voter suppression. It is real and it is here. And it is very disappointing for the Supreme Court decision that basically got rid of the preclearance that was required under